28 past the hour. Welcome back to Morning Joe. Mike Barnicle and Elise Jordan are back with us. And national political correspondent for NBC News and MSNBC, Steve Kornacki, joins the table.
And with us from Capitol Hill now, we've got Republican Senator Thom Tillis of North Carolina. He's a co-sponsor of the Succeed Act to address the legal uncertainty for undocumented children. We'll talk about that in a second. Senator, you know, you're from a state that's, I don't know, you can't call it red, you can't call it blue, it's sort of purple. I've got to believe that when you go out to town hall meetings, you hear a lot of people saying, why can't you guys come together on whether we're talking about Dreamers or health care? So is there hope for the people of North Carolina that Republicans and Democrats can come together and put a bipartisan health care reform bill together?
Well, we're going to need to do that, whether or not the Graham-Cassidy bill passed or the bill last month. There's still a number of things that we have to do with health care that would require bipartisan support. And I, for one, in a purple state, as you correctly pointed out, in North Carolina, found a lot of bipartisan consensus when I was Speaker, and we've got to start leading that way up here in Washington.
Well, what do you think's happening in Washington now with the what appears to be the health care attempt once again dead? How is anything going to get done when the president doesn't seem to be intellectually connected with the contents of the bills as it pertains to health care?
Well, I think that the members of Congress know that we're going to have to provide a solution. If this bill doesn't pass, we still have premiums having doubled over the last 4 years. We have almost half the counties in the United States only going to have one choice on healthcare.gov next year for an insurance policy. And we've got a number of other structural problems. So we've still got a problem to fix, whether it's this bill under reconciliation or a bipartisan bill. We cannot go away from this issue until we fix it.
Or Obamacare. Steve Kornacki?
Senator, I guess I have a philosophical question about where your party is right now. This is an interesting contrast right now between this health care bill, this stalled health care bill, and the president and all of his attention being directed to the issue of the NFL in national anthems. He won the nomination of your party last year at a time when not a lot of Republican leaders supported him. I'm curious, do you look at Donald Trump? Do you see his appeal to your voters, to Republican voters, is more cultural, more on cultural grounds than it is on policy grounds?
Well, I think the president during the campaign and since he's become president has really moved around on issues that I think have resonated with different elements on both sides of the aisle. But I, for one, want to just focus on three things we promised we'd get done next year. A solution for health care, tax reform, and work on infrastructure. And I'm really all about removing all the distractions and really trying to have a reasonable discussion with Democrats who will work with us. Now, there are some on the other side of the aisle that simply will not work with us. Regardless of what they say about bipartisanship, they have no track record in it. And if anything, they've had a track record for divisiveness and holding some of their members who'd like to work together. I've seen this before. Having been the Speaker of the House in North Carolina, there's a right way to get bipartisan support. Some of that is standing for things when you're in the majority that you wanted in the minority. And I tell my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, why don't you start doing that too so that we can get reasonable-minded people to produce a result?
Elise.
Senator Elise Jordan here. You're on the Armed Service Committee, and I just am curious. It seems like the military has really, if there is a strategy when it comes to North Korea, the military is leading the charge here. Are you concerned about the escalation in tension between the United States and North Korea in the past week or so?
Well, I am. I'm worried about I'm worried for the broader region. I'm constantly thinking about the 30,000 or more soldiers that are in South Korea, the hundreds of thousands of American nationals who live in and around Seoul. So there's a direct American threat, American lives at risk, and then there are millions of other people. We've got to get China to play a role. They've got an interesting relationship with North Korea, but it's in their best interest to keep that region stable. It's in their best economic and social interest to keep that region stable. But the escalation is something that does concern me, and it's something that we have to have a firmer hand. We've shown what being passive in the face of aggressive actions by North Korea or provocative actions, what it's gotten us. It's gotten us a more provocative North Korea. So I agree with the president that we have to be firmer, but I also believe that the people with stars on their shoulders need to be in the front lines telling us how best to deal with this from a military and those in the State Department from a diplomatic perspective.
Senator, you're proposing a Succeed Act to sort of assist people who are here, DACA people. What's the difference in terms of rigor between the existing DACA code and the Succeed Act that you propose?
A lot of it has to do with the terms for even being qualified for it. Gainful employment, having established a career, going to a 4-year or actually 2-year accredited institution, so you're getting advanced skills, or you're serving in the military. There are also very specific requirements for not having committed a felony or any significant misdemeanors. Those are the baseline terms for being able to get 1 5-year protected status, apply for a second 5-year protective status, and then in a third tranche to be considered for a green card. So there's a bit more rigor, and one of the reasons we want to do that, we believe most of the Dreamers will be qualified for it, but we're also trying to prevent this from occurring again by setting a very high bar for future generations who may try to come across the border, parents with children.
So how does that apply to like a 12-year-old who's been here for 12 years?
That means that if that 12-year-old at the appropriate time will become qualified for applying for protected status if they haven't committed a felony or they haven't committed a misdemeanor, or the education requirement at that point, because their age would not be relevant at that point. Once they get adult age, that's when some of the education requirements kick in.
All right, Senator Thom Tillis, thank you very much for being on the show this morning.
Thank you, Senator. Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.